Hello, and thank you for joining our Building a Successful Automation Education Program session. I'm Florin Grigorescu, Program Manager in the Learning Alliances team at UiPath, and I'm extremely excited to be the moderator of this session today. Being part of this team in UiPath means that I have the opportunity and honor to meet extraordinary people that are constantly and visibly influencing their surrounding RPA communities. To this end, I'm delighted that today you'll learn from Professor Dr. Langmann from University of Applied Sciences in Munich and Professor Dr. Friedrich Augenstein from Baden-Wurttemberg Cooperative State University in Stuttgart, how they build their curriculum for effective learning and competence development of their students. And you will also discover the success stories and use cases our practitioners will share in this interactive panel discussion. So thank you both for being here today with us.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation.
Because I personally experienced learning RPA from tech enthusiasts as yourself, I know and I understand the dedication it takes to do this. So this brings me to my first question. We'll start with you, Christian. How did it all started for you?
Thank you for the question, Florin. So I think I have to take you back to, I think it was 2018, something like that, when I first heard about RPA. And it was right away, it fascinated me, a fascinating technology. And my first thought was, how can I deliver that to students, right? And I've explored, to be very honest, first of all, UiPath, and I tried around in the studio, so I did my first little bot, and I still got excited. I thought, this is good. Let's try this. And then slowly from there on, I think it was in the first class at the end of 2018. I think we had the first classes with UiPath Studio, where we developed first little bots. That was it. That was my start, at least.
Thank you, Christian. What about you, Friedrich?
Yeah, thanks again for your invitation. At our university, it all started in 2019 with a consideration together with our Center for Digital Transformation at our university to bring the technologies related to robotic process automation closer to the students. So lectures on classic business process management were already an integral part of our curriculum, but the new RPA technology was not yet present. So back in 2019, we sought contact with a market leader in this area, UiPath, and established an academic alliance. And then we were able to use this immediately and successfully in student projects in 2019. So that was it, how it started at the university.
Thank you, Friedrich. Here in the Academic Alliance team in UiPath, I had the chance to take part of several guest lectures, and I've managed to see each time a new professor that has a different approach. Some of them have similar, let's say, beginnings as you've described. And yeah, this brings me a lot of good vibe and energy, because I always think about influencing the next generation of potential RPA professionals. How did you both convince the students to take part? Was it imposed by the university, and what was the reaction in the classroom? Friedrich, you can start.
To be honest, when we started in 2019, our students were skeptical at first. They are business management students who don't have much to do with programming, but they work half the time of their, we call it dual studies, in a company, and see the possible uses of IT there, and they also support the optimization of processes in their companies. And so at the end of 2019, in the 5th semester at our university, they had the choice between several seminars, one of them on the subject of RPA. And we were able to convince around 50 students to choose our RPA seminar, because we showed them the added value for their work in their companies. So not only the students, but also their companies benefited from the seminar. And when the students saw how easy it is to automate processes with RPA and how many useful tips they received from us and UiPath community, their enthusiasm was great.
Great, that's great. Christian, how did you convince your students to take part?
So I took a similar but also different approach, I would say. I pretty soon I had contacts to several companies who started their RPA journey 2016, 2017, something like that. And I think it was in 2018 or beginning of 2019, I invited Daimler. I recall very good, and they brought with them their whole story. Why did they put it in place? In which areas? What were the processes? And of course, that fascinated students. I mean, you say like, hey, wait a minute. So a company like Daimler is using it. This must be a good technology. And that was like the kickoff. So since I'm from the field from accounting and controlling, finance, basically, you need to come up with use cases which the students and the companies they work in have a use for. The technology by itself is, I wouldn't say useless, but it's just like empty. So without a use case, they're going to say, hey, thank you for giving me the introduction, but what am I going to do with it? So the Daimler kickoff was very good for our purpose to say, hey, this is, I think this is a good movement. And that's how they got fascinated at the first place.
That's great. So I do have similar stories with how fellow peers started using RPA. And as part of my previous roles in the RPA working environment, I did encounter a lot of young students that just heard about RPA and had all these kind of innovative ideas to create robots. Did any of your students have ideas to implement RPA, either personal projects or work? What type of use cases do they want to build? And I don't know, do you offer students credits for completing your RPA course? Christian, I think you can start on this one.
Well, that's a lot of questions. Let me start with the last one. So basically, we have several courses, depending on the faculty of the university, which we're talking about. So there are pure RPA courses, or I would say pure automation courses, which are targeted more or less on people in the IT or business IT environment. For finance students, for example, we included in the course which we call digitalization of accounting and finance. So this is what's basically included in. And that gives them a basic of credits, of course, where it's included. But I have to admit that I had a lot of theses on the topic. So companies or students who work in companies who come to me and say, hey, can we have a thesis on a practical thesis? How can we implement it? What can we use it for? Can we develop a bot? Things like that. So I think that's the last questions, how they can reach some credits. And I think it works pretty good. Now, I think for the first one, do they have ideas? I think it's a matter of teaching, isn't it? If I teach RPA from my view on a theoretical basis, you get some ideas, but what we try to do is we try to practice it. And as soon as you get into the program, you do it either with Studio or Studio X in the example of UiPath, it makes a lot more easy to get understanding for which kind of processes that might be useful. And that's how they come up with it. So that's how they develop their ideas, they develop their first thoughts where RPA could be a good move on.
Yeah, it does make sense. Thank you. Friedrich, do you have students that have ideas on implementing RPA?
So in our first seminar, the students were asked to get together in working groups and to think about 2 processes in each group that can be automated with RPA. So they identified then in total 16 processes during our seminar, which the students then actually automated with UiPath. So it was pretty successful, and the spectrum ranged from topics from controlling, such as automated creation of reports, to the compilation of lead lists for sales from a wide variety of sources, to location and competitor analysis based on Google Maps data. So the students implemented all these processes which have a concrete background within their companies. So they served also the companies with the results of their work. And the students were also asked to develop a RPA worthiness assessment and to calculate a business case for the processes to be automated. So the economic aspects were thus also taken into account. And we then published the results in a book, and our students and the associated companies were very satisfied about that work. And about the credit points, the students received 5 ECTS credit points at our university for the seminar and for the elaborations they worked out.
I think so. With many ideas, different ideas. I bet there were all kinds of challenges. What were the biggest challenges that you faced teaching this new technology in your classroom?
Yeah, the biggest challenge was overcoming the student skepticism about programming. But when they saw that RPA applications like UiPath were so easy to use, their skepticism was gone. And yeah, so that I think was the biggest challenge.
Christian, what was your biggest challenge?
Well, I couldn't tell. It's so many. I would probably talk an hour on challenge. The first one was technically. So it was not at the beginning. It was not that easy to get a download exactly, you know, and then get the machine running. Today, we still have some kinds of challenges. Do they have to write laptops with them? Sometimes people have Mac, which is going to be a bit difficult, you know, things like that. That's technically. Then, of course, from a teaching perspective, at the beginning, that's today not a challenge anymore. There was no material, to be honest. 2018, there was no material out there. So there was like, I don't know, 1 book, that's it, 2 books, a couple of articles. There was nothing. So that back then brought me and Daniel Turi, who works in Allianz Suisse back then, or still works there. We wrote a book on it to get some first information out there in German, and published a second edition, I think a year ago. So those were the biggest challenges at the beginning on that. Now, later on, I think the challenge for me today is to keep up with the pace. Right, because I think it's also very important for the students to keep up with the technology and the pace, what's going on. And my take on it, or my result on it, is to continuously, you know, invite people from externally to have, I don't know, consultants or companies showing what they're currently doing with RPA, or hyper automation, things like that, to keep up with the technology at RPA. I think that's a challenge. I think that's not easy. Because one thing is RPA, the next thing is the next steps, what's coming after RPA or together with RPA.
Definitely. So then I think, is it safe to assume that the resources that came with time was I don't know, helped you the most in teaching automation in the university? Christian, yeah.
I think that the resources, now what I experienced at the beginning was, and I have to be very careful how to frame this, or how to say this, but at the beginning was also very difficult to get a piece of software, yeah, right, to get a free software download, and I think that's solved today. And I think the resources that are provided, for example, with UiPath, I think they're very good. I think they're excellent. I think they give a very good basis to have the teaching material in place. They have the software in place. I think that's very good. So from a resource perspective, I wouldn't say that's a challenge for me today. I think the challenge come in the upcoming, I would say, month, years, to connect it with other technologies. I think that's the next challenge for me. You know, to keep up, to connect it with the machine learning experiences and others, or OCR experiences, and then to combine it with good teaching material, which also works, right? That's going to be a challenge.
Great. Yeah, Friedrich, what helped you the most in teaching automation?
Yeah, just let me add one thing. In the meantime, the topic of RPA is an integral part of our bachelor's degree in a lecture on digital transformation and management of digital application, which has 50 lecture hours, and in the master's degree in a lecture tools for organization and consulting, which lasts for 40 lecture hours. And in other departments in our university, RPA was included in the lectures in the meantime as well. So the students are very involved here because they see that the concept is not the only thing here, but that they can also implement automated processes really quickly. And we also reach them by including these business issues that demonstrates the added value of RPA solutions. And so what helped me most in teaching this automation in the university, so we Swabians are known to be very thrifty, so the free UiPath version is very attractive for our students because they can get started right away. And for us university lectures, the wide variety of documents and courses on the UiPath Academic Alliance platform are very, very helpful. So in the meantime, there are really a complete sets of documents available there, which can be quickly and easily transferred to the lecture documents. And the support from you, Florin, and Vladimir Delio and your team has always been excellent.
Thank you.
It was really a great help.
Yeah, from our part, so it's not just work, it's not just a job. We are big advocates of this technology, of RPA and UiPath in general. And for my part, at least, being able to work for different clients from different domains helped me a lot. Let's say, for example, in my guest lectures, right? So for me, this was, let's say, my secret weapon in trying to get people around me or in the communities that I had access to become enthusiastic about this technology. What was your secret in helping I don't know, students or other fellow professors?
Yeah. I think even more than in classic lectures, the practical implementation is the focus of RPA, and therefore the lecturer's role is more that of a coach than that of a knowledge broker. My experience is that the students quickly become familiar with the theoretical basics of RPA and also with the functionality of the software, but then really push for the concrete implementation. And this corresponds more to a discovery and exploratory learning experience that we as university teachers support.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great insight. Christian, what advice would you give to anyone who wants to start teaching RPA in their universities?
I would add on to that what Friedrich said. First of all, of course, you need to have a theoretical basis and you need to know what you're talking about. I think that's frankly very easy. And today the material which you provide, which is out there, is very good. But secondly, and I can only stress that a lot, say, I think as a teacher, as a professor, you need to do it yourself in the first place. Because it's not going to work, by letting students do something and explore them, and they're going to do it, and you have no clue what you're talking about. I think that's one insight. And the second insight, I would even go further. I would say, to get some more insights, how company implemented it, what kind of challenges they have. I think that gives a level of reflection which you need in classes, also to challenge the technology. Let me give an example. For example, setting up the first bot, I think that's something which students can do in maybe, 2 or 3 hours to have a first bot which is going to work. Now, to get a discussion going on the maintenance of a bot is something different. So we need to talk about the insights. How is the technology working? What if we change a variable? What if we change, a little thing in the process? What's going to happen? So, and what do the students come up with? What kind of ideas do they have? How to solve that? And I think that discussion opens up so many things. How is the operational model? How is the organization? What are documentation necessary to solve that, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's the beauty of teaching when you're doing it yourself, doing. I think that's a first thing.
Hands-on approach, yeah.
Hands-on. I think that's the first advice I would give you instead of having nice slides.
Yeah, personally, I've been working with RPA and UiPath for almost 6 years now, and I still like to think that I'm in the top 10 advocates of this technology. But I do want to know, as a closing session, what do you personally think is the best part of RPA?
I think that you can use it just right away with the concept, with technology you see and you have in mind, and if you are a little bit familiarized with business processes and how to optimize them and things like that, it can be really very, very easily being automated. You need not to program APIs to some software or whatever. You just can go right away. And that is the benefit the students see and the companies see as well. And so you can just go to work and make it. And you do not have to do a lot of education or courses or whatever. You can really just start right away and see the benefit.
Great.
I can only agree, Friedrich. I would add on to that and say there's two more things that come to my mind. First of all, I think RPA is, why is it nice? Because now the technology is mature. You know, it's a technology that's mature, it's in place. And that gives you the confidence that when you teach it and when you learn it, you know there's going to be an application for it, right? And it opens up, I would say, you know, a nice little present, which is called process optimization. You know, you have a full discussion on processes, full discussion how to optimize organization, which is just brought to you by RPA. That's one idea I would add on to that. And a second one I would add on to concerning the maturity. I think there's a lot of technologies out there which have kind of, you know, an isolated part, right? It's a little technology which is used for a special kind of thing, and that's it. If I look into the RPA space today, and we brought out an issue, I think 2020 on RPA, and if I talk to companies today, I have the feeling it's hard to find a company who doesn't have RPA in place sometimes. Yeah, so I'm kind of astonished. So that means for me, students can be very calm that this is a technology which is in place, which is going to be in place, and is being continuously developed into a next phase. Call it intelligent automation, call it hyper automation, doesn't really matter. It means 2.0 for me. So I think that's very confident for students today.
Gentlemen, these kinds of discussions are personally are invaluable for me. So I really appreciate the time you took for having this interview, this discussion. I appreciate the time. To all our viewers, thank you for joining this session today and for being with us, Professor Dr. Christian Langmann and Professor Dr. Friedrich Augenstein. Join us in our next session for a career talk with our MVPs, and see you later in the live networking tables. Gentlemen, again, thank you once more. Big thank you